Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay, we are going to just dive right into the play, Twelfth Night. So, I do have this Twelfth Night summary PowerPoint. It basically summarizes each act with the main plot points. But with this particular video, we're just going to kind of go through each scene as it's shown on the Folger Shakespeare website. So, we start off with Act 1, Scene 1. Now, one of the great things about this particular website is it gives you the synopsis between each or before each scene, which kind of sets the stage a little bit for what you're going to get. It might actually, sometimes with the synopsis, it will actually help you to better understand like what kind of dialogue is being used as well. So, Act 1, Scene 1, we are introduced to Duke Orsino. He is sick with love for Lady Olivia, and he learns from his messenger that she is grieving for her dead brother and refuses to be seen for 7 years. Now, this is all very interesting as far as Orsino. So, Orsino would be one of the main head of households in this fictional country called Illyria. Illyria is surrounded by sea. And I'm guessing the only way you can really get there is by boat, which we will see in scene two, why that's important. But primarily, the two heads of household are of the Duke of Illyria, Orsino, as well as the House of Lennox, now ran by Lady Olivia. So here we go into scene one, where Orsino is just talking to his um, friend of sorts, a friend, confident, henchman. The Curio works for Orsino. So do with what you wish with that information. But we are introduced to Orsino, and he is just love stricken beyond, just beyond. So he starts off like, if music be the food of love, play on. Give me excess of it. Like if music is like can represent love in any way, give it all to me. He is lovelorn. He wants who he wants, and this is his declaration to his uh I guess court. This is his declaration. And Curio was, will you go hunt, my lord? And he says, what? And Curio says, well, the hart. And Orsino says, why, so I do, the noblest that I have. Oh, when my eyes did see Olivia first. Oh, there he goes. He is now talking about how much he loves her. And then here comes another member of his court, Valentine. And he's demanding, like, what is the news from Lady Olivia? And here Valentine's having to break the news. So please, my lord, I might not be admitted, but from her handmaid do return this answer: the element itself, till 7 years' heat, shall not behold her face in ample view. So basically, she's saying she's kind of shunning off the world for 7 years. And it says here, a brother's dead love, which she would keep fresh and lasting in her sad remembrance. Meaning she's going to cut herself off from society. Even says here, even if she is out, she will be veiled when she walks. Um, so she will not, even if she is seen out and about within her walls, she will still be veiled. She doesn't want anyone to see her, as this is her way of grieving. And Orsino just, of course, goes back to what Orsino loves, and that is pretty much himself, and how much that he says, well, 7 years, why? Like, let her know who I am. Tell her who I am. And her sweet perfections with oneself king. See, he's more preoccupied with getting her to, I guess, fall in love with him. It's kind of like ignoring the fact of what she is doing. So then we move on to Act 1, Scene 2, and this is probably one of my favorite scenes. This is when we are introduced to Viola. So Viola and her twin brother Sebastian, were traveling through the Adriatic seacoast, and there was a shipwreck. And when the ship went down, Viola was saved by the captain, and Sebastian is believed to have just floated off to sea to be swallowed by the ocean. So we are introduced to Viola as she is having conversation with the captain of the ship. She's trying to find out first and foremost where she is. Then she wants to find out which household she can work for or to join. And obviously there are only two that she could, and that is Duke as well as Olivia. Problem is we do know that Olivia has closed her gates for 7 years. So this is Viola kind of seeing what she can do. So she says, "What country, friends, is this?" And the captain says, "Well, this is Illyria, lady." And Viola says, "And what should I do in Illyria? My brother, he is in Elysium. Perchance he is not drowned." So she's hoping that her brother like drifted off. Either he drowned or he was washed aboard the country of Elysium. So the captain's, saying, "It is perchance that you were saved." Um, the captain is telling her, "After our ship did split, when you and those poor numbers saved with you hung on our driving boat, I saw your brother, most provant in peril, bind himself to a strong mast that lived upon the sea." So the captain's basically telling her, I saw him get swept away with the waves. Um, so I can't really suggest that there would be a lot of positive outcome for that. But Viola says, basically tells him thank you. Thank you for giving me this information. Now she can kind of know what she needs to do with her life if she has lost her family. So she goes on to ask the captain, who governs here? And the captain says, "A noble duke, and nature is in his name." Viola says, "Well, what's his name?" "Orsino. Orsino. I've heard my father name him. He was a bachelor then, and so is now, or so very late. But for but a month ago I went from hence." So meaning, she's asking, yeah, the my dad said that he was single. Oh well, he still is. Um, at least as far as a month ago he was. So he also goes in to tell Viola that he did seek the love of fair Olivia. So obviously, Orsino's love for Olivia is pretty known, I guess, throughout the lands. And Viola says, "Well, what's she?" And the captain says, "A virtuous maid, the daughter of a count, that died some 12 months since, then leaving her in the protection of his son, her brother, who shortly also died, for whose dear love they say she hath abjured the sight and company of men." And Viola's like, "Well, okay, I can serve that lady. Um, it may not be great, but I'll do it." And the captain says, "Well, she is gonna admit no kind of suit. And Viola says, "Well, there is fair behavior in thee, captain, and though that nature with the beauteous wall doth oft close in pollution, yet of thee I will be thou hast a mind that suits with this thy fair and outward character." So she's basically saying, "Well, if I can't work for Olivia, I guess my only other option would be to work for the Duke." So she says, "I prithee, and I pay thee bounteously, conceal me what I am, and be my aid, for such disguise as haply shall become the form of my intent. I'll serve this Duke. Thou shalt present me as a eunuch to him. It may be worth thy pains, for I can sing and speak to him in many sorts of music that will allow me very worth his service." So she says, "I have these tricks and, trades. Maybe this will make him happy, and then I can totally be, part of his court, and I'll be fine." And then she just says, "Captain, I'm going to give you some money, and I would like for you to transform me into a page boy." And that's exactly what the captain does. So, Act 1, Scene 3, we are introduced to the two wonderful people, sarcasm entailed, Sir Toby and Maria. Sir Toby is Lady Olivia's uncle. He's a drunk. He kind of makes a fool out of himself throughout the entire play. Um, you will see that he is kind of conniving and uh, what's another word? Conniving. He's narcissistic. He's just this bevy of wonderment. And then we are also introduced to Maria. Now, Maria is Lady Olivia's handmaiden. And unfortunately, she is not the best character in this play, actually. She's probably one of the worst. She is, um, oh, I'll jump too far ahead. You'll understand this as we get to Act 3. So Toby and Maria are just having a chat, um, talking about Olivia and her, I guess, refusal to be seen, refusal to be wooed, refusal to any suitor for 7 years. And he's kind of trying to find out the ins and outs. Um, to hear where Maria says, I heard my lady talk of it yesterday, and of a foolish knight that you brought in one night here to be her wooer. So, what that means is Toby has been so preoccupied with trying to get Olivia's to find a suitor for Olivia. He, is so preoccupied with wanting to know because he has a friend named Sir Andrew Aguecheek, who also has a crush, if you will, on Lady Olivia. And here Maria is just kind of like, well, you know that she doesn't want to be with anyone, yet you are bringing in somebody to woo her. And Toby says, "Well, who? Sir Andrew Aguecheek?" And she said, "Hey, he. Well, he's as tall as any man in Illyria." And she's like, "Well, what's that purpose?" And then Toby has to remind, "Well, he has 3,000 ducats a year." And Maria says, "Well, I don't understand what this point is." When Toby finally gets to the point, he's basically saying, "I want my dear friend Andrew wants to be with Lady Olivia, and we need to kind of have a discourse of sorts that way we can kind of make her want to be with Andrew." And Maria really doesn't say yay or nay to either or, but she doesn't really like Andrew because Andrew is also kind of narcissistic, kind of full of himself. He thinks that he is just like God's gift. Um, and he also he's not very kind, and that's a big one. He's not very kind at all to other people. Which kind of really highlights just his arrogance in a way. He's definitely considered an antagonist of the story. Um, at least in my eyes, he kind of represents an antagonist of sorts. Um, so he is going through having conversation with Maria, talking about how he has these feelings for Olivia, and how with Maria's help, you know, with Maria's help, he could have a chance to be with Olivia. And Toby is going to kind of blow up his ego, blow up Andrew's ego, and let him know that, oh, he would be perfect. You would be perfect for Olivia. Um, you're like tall, handsome, rich, um, of good background, of good standing. But Toby has more, I guess, selfish needs when it comes to Andrew being with his niece, with Toby's niece. Andrew is bankrolls Toby and Toby's drunken spiels and things of that nature. Andrew pays for everything. He gives Toby everything he wants. So Toby, of course, wants to keep Andrew around. And what better way to have more and more excess would be to have your puppet marry your niece, who is over a one of the biggest houses in Illyria. So he knows that if Andrew ends up with Olivia, then he's really got it made, because not only then will Andrew still give him all the money and give him everything that he wants, now he'll also have a higher standing because his best friend will officially be a part of the court. So that's what they kind of go through with Act 1, Scene 3. It's just discourse between Toby and Andrew talking about, or basically Toby inflating Andrew's ego, saying that, Andrew's saying, well, I know that Orsino is also interested, and you have Toby in his ear telling him, "Well, you're just as important. You're just as strong and handsome and debonair. You are. If in fact you could be even better." So he's just really inflating Andrew's ego in this particular scene. So then, in Act One, Scene 4, we go back to Orsino's court, where Viola is now known as Cesario. That is her um, male alter ego. And Viola comes, she uh, gets to know Orsino. She wants to gain his trust because if she gains his trust, then she won't ever have to worry about not having a place. But Orsino has his own thing, his own kind of idea like stirring in his brain. He is going to have Cesario um, go and woo Lady Olivia. He says, "Well, Cesario's, youthful. He's so much more youthful than I am. He's so much better with words. He's this, that, and the other. And he can talk her into meeting with me or being mine." So Orsino also knows that because Olivia has sworn off everything, well, maybe perhaps if since Cesario is new, she may entertain the idea of speaking with him. So, but Viola, she says, "Well, if she so be so abandoned to her sorrow as it is spoke, she will never admit me." And Orsino's like, "Just be clamorous and leap all civil bounds." He's just make her feel like she's one of a kind, and really make her feel as though that she is, you know, wonderful, and I am saying all of this and I think she is wonderful. And then Viola says, "Well, if I am allowed to speak with her, what do I do?" And Orsino says, "Oh, then unfold the passion of my love. Surprise her with discourse of my dear faith. It shall become thee well to act my woes. She will attend it better in thy youth than in a nuncio's of more grave aspect." So again, he's saying, well, just tell her how much I love her. Really describe, really make me look really good. And he says she'll totally respond to you because, you're young and it's just you're new, so she's more like to talk to you. And Viola says, "Well, I think not so, my lord." And Orsino says, "Well, dear lad, believe it, for they shall yet belie thy happy year, that thou say art a man. Diana's lips is not more smooth and rubious than small pipe is as the maiden's organ shrill and sound." So he says, "You're a man. You can do this. Just go over, let her know that I am ready for basically I am ready for love and I want you, and we could basically, rule Illyria together." And Viola just ends with, "I'll do my best to woo your lady." And then she says to the audience, "Yet a barful strife. Whoever I woo, myself would be his wife." So at this point in Act 1, Scene 4, Viola has told the audience that she herself likes Orsino. So she says, "Okay, I'll go and I'll woo Olivia, but in reality, I want to be with you." But of course, that can't come to fruition, right? Then Act 1, Scene 5, we are with Viola as she goes to Olivia's estate. So, with this particular scene, we are introduced to Maria and Feste the Fool. So, they talk back and forth about how Olivia has, you know, closed off from the outside world and is not allowing anyone to come in. Um, talking about how, uh, Toby is trying to, I guess, instill his own ideas into Olivia, and how Orsino is so desperate to have her. And it's just they just have this big conversation about Olivia and about how, I guess, all of these outside things are trying to, I guess, infiltrate. especially right here, it says on like line 26, Toby would leave drinking. Thou wert as witty as a piece of Eve's flesh as any Illyria. So they constantly tend to focus on Toby's drinking. Um, then we have enter Lady Olivia with Malvolio and attendants. So Malvolio is like Lady Olivia's top guy. I don't know if I would like really necessarily call him like a butler or like a henchman. He's kind of an assistant, but Maria's more of an assistant. So I kind of um, take what you will of Malvolio. In my 102, my another 102 class, everybody had a different kind of opinion of Malvolio. So please have um, think what you will of Malvolio. Again, I think of him kind of as more like a butler to Lady Olivia. So Olivia comes in and she is talking to the fool about everything that's going on. The fool is, concerned, and Olivia is just trying to explain, because my brother's death, I'm just kind of just existing for the most part. And the fool's trying to tell her, it's okay, like let's just move on because it really doesn't matter. And he's also kind of like being kind of rude here. This particular thing, he says, "Good Madonna, why mourtst thou?" And she said, "Good fool, for my brother's death." The fool says, "I think his soul is in hell, Madonna." And Olivia says, "Well, I know his soul is in heaven, fool." And the fool says, "The more fool, Madonna, to mourn for your brother's soul being in heaven. Take away the fool, gentlemen." So the fool's kind of known for like kind of stirring the pot a little bit. Um, and she asks Malvolio, "What do you think of him, the fool?" And Malvolio, in any attempt to side with Olivia, that's what he does. He um, secretly loves Olivia and pretty much will do anything for Olivia. So he basically is just talking about, like, yeah, the fool's kind of, wasting his time. And the fool's talking about Sir Toby, and, Sir Toby trusts me. So, and she's like, it's back and forth. And Olivia is having Malvolio kind of take her side, and try to, I guess, put the fool uh, in his place. Let's see here. So finally, Maria comes in and she lets Olivia know that there's a young gentleman at the gate who wishes to speak with her. And Olivia just knows, "It's from Count Orsino, is it?" And Maria says, "I know not, madam. It's a fair young man and well attended." She says, "Well, whom of my people hold him in delay?" "Sir Toby." "Fetch him off, I pray you." So Sir Toby is constantly like, I guess he's kind of like a puppet master in a way. He likes to have his hand in everything that goes on. He likes to know what's happening at all aspects. And Olivia's just like, kind of like, just back off, like let him go, whatever. I'll speak to him. Fine. And, Toby comes in, of course, drunk, and is talking about the gentleman at the gate and how, she should just shoo him off, whatever. And Toby continues on with his spiel of drunkenness. And then he ends up leaving, and then Malvolio comes back to say, um, "The young man wishes to speak with you. I told him you were sick. He takes on him to understand so much and therefore comes to speak with you. I told him you were asleep. He seems to have foreknowledge of that too." So the funny thing is that Malvolio is telling Olivia, "I'm giving him all these excuses," but the funny thing is he already knows the excuses. Why does he know the excuses? Possibly because he's really Viola, and Viola has used these very excuses in order to have men leave her alone. So Olivia says, "Tell him he shall not speak with me." And Malvolio's like, "I have said it," but he is not leaving. He's not budging. So finally, Olivia's just like, "Fine, whatever. Like, I'll talk to him." So Maria comes in and Olivia says, "Give me my veil. Come throw it over my face. We'll once more hear Orsino's embassy." So she knows that this is something from Orsino. She doesn't really care, but obviously to get this person to leave, the only way to do that, um, will be just to get the conversation over with. So Viola says, "The honorable lady of the house, which is she?" And Olivia says, "Speak to me. I shall answer for her. Your will?" And Viola goes on to talk about, and he is using, or she's using all of these, you know, loving speeches and discourse saying, "Oh, you're beautiful, this, that, and the other. Um, I come from, I am a messenger. I come from Orsino. Um, let's see here. Let's scroll down a little bit here. She says, "My most sweet lady." And Olivia knows, like, "Where lies your text?" And Viola says, "In Orsino's bosom." Like, basically, this is what he wants me to say, and I'm here to say it. Um, so please listen. And Olivia says, "Well, have you any commission from your lord to negotiate?" Because Viola says, "Well, let me see your face. That way I can disclose the love of my of the Duke." And Olivia says, "Well, I don't know why you think that you deserve to see my face, but I will go on ahead and let you just see." Um, and she ends up taking off her veil. So that's kind of a big first step, first kind of clue. Now Viola's really able to just talk Olivia up in the name of Orsino, and that's ultimately what she does. But the problem is in all of this that Olivia is, I guess, digesting, she is more or less digesting it from the Cesario, which ultimately kind of blows up in Viola's face because by the end of this act, we have an idea that Olivia, Lady Olivia, has a crush on Cesario. And at the end, in order to kind of state that crush of sorts, she she calls for Malvolio after Cesario has left, and she says, "Oh, Malvolio, he dropped this ring." Well, if you've noticed from the lines of dialogue, nothing was ever dropped from Cesario. It's kind of like a plan that Olivia has. Well, if uh, he left this ring, so I'm going to give it back to him, even though I know that it's not his, because she knows that if she gives him this ring, he'll end up bringing it back, and that will be a way to ensure that Olivia will be able to see him again. So that's what happens between, or all within Act One. Act One, we meet Orsino, we meet Viola, we meet Olivia, Maria, Malvolio, Toby, Andrew, as well as the more of the secondary characters like Feste the Fool, Valentine, or Curio. Um, and so, yes, Act One is complete.